Hey, folks. Hey, I want to have an intelligent, non-hate-driven conversation about same-sex marriage, and reason why, because generally I don't pay attention to it, but I think for people to try to redefine what a marriage is a bad idea. I think that currently the institution of marriage works. Marriage is what it is, and it works, and it's very efficient, proficient as is. And so my problem is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So to append the things that God does, you can't add to it or take away. Everybody knows I'm a Christian, right? If you got any of my videos, I'm a Christian, all right? And that doesn't mean that I'm not I haven't sinned or I'm perfect or anything like that. And I'm not judging anybody as a person. I'm not saying, "Ooh, you're a bad person. You're no worse than anybody else." Everybody sinned. Now, sin is what God has a problem with, not the people. He has always accept people. He's provided provision for that, for them to come through Jesus Christ and to be healed of their sin. So basically, there's no sin that He can't deal with. Now, He says fornication and there's all these sexual things are supposed to be under the roof of marriage. Okay, there's certain things that aren't, and there's certain things that aren't. You know, there's like different forms of sex aren't really what marriage is about. You know, and so that's that. You know, it's like, you can't just do have sex with anybody and call it marriage. The Bible is very specific with that. You basically can't marry your cousin just because you love her or love him. You can't marry her. God has talked against it. There's certain situations that work and don't work. You know, well, so the criteria of, "Oh, I just love them," doesn't make it. You could love your sister. People love their sisters, unless the Bible says what's right or what's moral or what's correct or what's pleasing or sanctifiable for God. Can you can you can you call it marriage? So, yeah. And so when you have a problem with that, when you say, "No, well, God is wrong and I'm right because I want a doctrine that says I'm right because," or you want to replace God with a doctrine that says it's okay because I want to do it, and so that's your doctrine. So the doctrine of, instead of light, purity, holiness, and these innate spiritual values that benefit and create other innate spiritual values like chastity and fidelity. Those are the things that merit virtue, fidelity, loyalty. So if it ain't broke, now, marriage is supposed to be a functional kind of thing within itself. So within marriage, a man, a woman get married and they can have a family. So a family is, in general, unless there's no health problems or something, basically they are both equipped to do it, which is something that you don't have in any other form. So any other form of, same-sex marriages, they're not sufficient in doing that. So it doesn't really qualify as even to be a marriage, because that's part of marriage, is procreation and a sanctity of creating that as a man and a woman creating a child, and then having to raise that child and not having to step outside of the marriage in order to do that. For most cases, that works. You know, there are certain situations between a man and a woman where it doesn't work, but that has to do with something else, usually some deficiency, you know. And so then that is worked out. You know, to say something that is already just don't work, you know, and doesn't work with the laws of nature, or not, let's say human nature, okay? Now I'm not talking about animals, okay, but just human nature, okay? Then that. So basically, I think to to say that this is we need to append change marriage for something that doesn't isn't really equipped to really qualify as a marriage is unfair. And I think it's unfair, and it's unfair to like push that agenda of, and I think it's just, you know, very selfish to push the agenda of, well, this doesn't work, but because we want it. Now, if it's a problem with goods, now I think when you start to when a government tries to accommodate that, something that will help pacify that. I mean, you know, you could just, if it's a matter of just handling your goods, why not just have something where you can write, anybody should be able to write off. You don't have to have marriage. You know, marriage, to denote marriage is to just say, hey, it's okay for us to do this. And I think that's the real problem that God has with that, is that when you have anybody, a murderer will admit, well, I'm a murderer. You know, if any other sin is just a sin, you know, oh, okay, a fornicator will say, yeah, well, I'm a fornicator. Everybody else will know when they're wrong. It's just that that one is kind of prideful, you know, where it won't admit, and everybody knows pride comes before a fall. You know, like you know, the world, like the Tower of Babylon. You know, men get so prideful that that there's like, well, we're going to reach up to heaven and walk into heaven. You know, then it comes crumbling down, something like the World Trade Center. And if you notice at the World Trade Center, then everybody all of a sudden had these traditional family values. They wanted to return to it. You know, you didn't hear all of this stuff about alternative lifestyle. Everybody wanted to be near their family, a solid foundation. So I just really think that it's selfish to try to push out these. You know, the thing about God is like the moral, the values of you should not kill your brother, and it's like as soon as you take those things out of school and start to put in a doctrine that says, you know, do what feels right or this alternative, it really actually has no compensation. There's no really base value or spiritual, no innately essence of the consciousness of man that will give him or have a reason, or that fortitude's a reason or nourishes a reason to do the right thing. That it's not about what I want, but it's about doing what is right for righteousness' sake and for the sake of others. So it's like, you know, I won't kill you because I wouldn't want that to happen to me. But if I want to do what I just want to do, then if I want to kill your ass, then I'll do it. You know, I just don't get it. You know. So my fact of the matter is that if it isn't broke, then why fix it? But again, I just, you know, to try to teach the alternative lifestyle is this is a functional family is wrong. It's not really a functional family. It's not made. It's not equipped to be a functional family. It doesn't work, you know. So that's my attitude, and why I'm concerned about it, why I'm speaking up about it. And it's not that I'm trying to push anybody away. I think it's more or less they push Christians away or push God out of our establishment in order to rush in this other agenda. So you had to take God out of the schools, and then, you know, then all of a sudden alternative lifestyles, guns, and everything else start coming to school. I'm not saying one is directly affiliated or homosexuals are affiliated with guns. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the morality of why you do good, you know, of why you do the right thing. And it's not just because it's what's good for me, you know. And that doesn't even, that doctrine doesn't even have a solution. That lifestyle doesn't even have a solution for those internal things that need to work. So it's broke. It just, to me, it's broke. To me, it doesn't offer what is truly needed to govern and those type of things. And what concerns me is that our politicians that I like, Barack Obama and Clinton, if they start preaching same-sex, I would literally, for that reason, I could go for Bush again. And I hate Bush, but it's not about what I want. I know what's right for the kids. And to say, regardless of the situation, you should be able to will your stuff. But to say that that's right is wrong. That's broke. That's backwards thinking.